Plasma fire tore across the training pit, scorching stone and metal as laughter echoed from above. The Galactic soldiers treated the arena like a game board, their elevated platforms glowing with shields, while they aimed at the lone human running below. To them, he was not a prisoner or a soldier. He was a moving target, a lesson for new recruits about accuracy, patience, and cruelty. His name was Elias Ward, a reconnaissance trooper from Earth's Outer Defense Fleet. Hours earlier, he had been captured during a failed extraction on a border moon. Now stripped of armor and dignity, he sprinted across broken terrain, boots slipping on dust and blood, lungs burning as near misses screamed past his ears. Every shot was calculated to wound fear, not flesh. They wanted him alive long enough to beg. A command rang out through a harsh translator, ordering him to run faster. Elias obeyed, not because he believed he would survive, but because stopping meant surrendering the last thing he owned: choice. Each step carried memories of home, of a blue sky he might never see again, of comrades who trusted him to return. He refused to let his final moments be silent. A bolt struck his thigh, spinning him into the dirt. Pain exploded through his body, raw and absolute. He clawed forward, dragging useless muscle, breath breaking into sharp gasps. Above him, silhouettes leaned closer, eager to watch the end. This spectacle would be recorded, archived, and replayed as proof that humanity was weak. What the soldiers did not notice was the absence of sound beyond the arena walls. No distant engines, no wildlife, no wind. High on a fractured tower overlooking the pit, a second human observed through a cracked visor, perfectly still. His armor was dark, scarred by years of war, bearing no insignia of rank or unit. The rifle in his hands was old, modified, and deadly quiet. They called him the Silent Reaper, though he no longer used a name. Once he had followed orders, trusted allies, believed in rules of engagement. That belief had died alongside a massacre he still saw in his dreams. Since then, he hunted alone, guided by a single unbreakable rule: no human dies as sport. Through his scope, he studied the arena with methodical patience, tracking firing patterns, shield intervals, and troop rotations. He watched Elias crawl, saw the stubborn refusal in his movements, recognized the same defiance he once carried. This was not strategy. This was execution dressed as training. The order to finish the target was given. The Reaper inhaled, steady and controlled, and squeezed the trigger. The first shot erased an alien's head before its nervous system could register pain. The second punched through a shield generator, dropping an entire platform into chaos. Confusion rippled through the soldiers as alarms flared and targeting systems scrambled for a threat they could not see. Elias heard the change before he understood it. The laughter stopped. Shouts replaced mockery, sharp and panicked. He lifted his head just as another plasma rifle clattered uselessly to the ground. For the first time since his capture, hope flickered. Fragile but real. The Reaper moved, repositioning with fluid precision, firing only when necessary, every round deliberate. He was not there for glory or rescue speeches. He was there to end the hunt. As the Empire's soldiers searched the shadows, fear crept into their ranks, a sensation they rarely experienced. Crawling behind a slab of wreckage, Elias pressed his forehead to the cold stone, whispering a breathless promise to survive if only given the chance. Somewhere unseen, a human had answered without words. From his elevated perch, the Reaper adjusted his stance, ignoring the warning lights flickering inside his helmet. He had seconds before heavier reinforcements would mobilize, seconds before the Empire would understand what stalked them. He used those seconds well, dismantling confidence shot by shot, turning discipline into hesitation. Below, Elias struggled upright, leaning against debris, eyes scanning the chaos with disbelief. He did not know who his unseen savior was, only that someone had chosen to act when the galaxy preferred to watch. The realization burned hotter than pain, igniting a resolve he thought the aliens had beaten out of him. Another alien fell. Another command died mid-sentence. The arena, once a theater of cruelty, became something else, a trap closing in reverse. And as the Galactic soldiers began to retreat, one truth settled over the pit like a shadow. This was no rescue. This was the beginning of a reckoning. Sirens blared through the outpost as chaos consumed the arena. The alien soldiers who had once laughed now shouted in confusion, their coordinated rhythm collapsing under invisible assault. Plasma bolts tore wildly into the dark, seeking a phantom that never revealed itself. The Silent Reaper moved between the fractured pillars and shattered, hulls like smoke given shape, his movement soundless, Deliberate, almost mechanical. Each shot he fired carried finality. Clean, untraceable, absolute. Panic spread faster than any bullet. The Empire's troops trained to dominate found themselves reduced to prey. Elias Ward pressed his back against the ruins, panting as smoke burned his lungs. The shock of survival felt heavier than death. He clutched the seared wound on his thigh, trying to make sense of the sudden reversal. Just minutes ago, the world had been laughter and pain. Now it was screams and silence. He had no idea who was killing the soldiers or why, only that someone or something had decided his life mattered. The thought alone threatened to break him. Humanity had always been outnumbered, outgunned, mocked by empires that saw them as a curiosity. Yet somewhere in the stars, a human had chosen vengeance. A shadow fell across him. A figure emerged from the smoke, taller than he expected, wrapped in blackened armor scarred by battles older than either of them could name. The visor reflected the red glow of distant fires. Elias froze, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. The figure knelt, cutting through the restraints that still bit into his wrists. "You can walk?" The voice was low, quiet, and unmistakably human. Elias nodded, though pain twisted through every nerve. "Then stay behind me," the man said. They moved through the devastation, one step at a time. The Reaper never looked back, scanning every corridor with soldier's precision. Each motion revealed a man accustomed to violence not for pleasure but necessity. The rifle he carried was battered, its surface etched with repairs made by his own hands. It was a weapon of defiance. Human technology pushed far beyond its original design. Above them, drones swarmed from carriers, searching for heat signatures. The Reaper raised a small device, activated it, and the air shimmered faintly, their outlines blurred from sensors. Elias recognized the tactical brilliance and realized this was no ordinary soldier. Whoever this man was, he had planned every move before firing the first shot. They slipped through a collapsed gate into a narrow corridor that had once led to the observation chambers. The walls trembled under distant explosions. From the comms channel came overlapping alien voices, sharp and afraid. "Unknown hostile. Precise trajectory. Requesting orbital clearance." The Reaper paused, listening to every word. His hand rested on the rifle as if the weapon could hear. "They'll bring reinforcements," he murmured. "We won't stay for them." Elias found his voice hoarse but steady. "Who are you?" The man did not answer at first. He crouched near a terminal, downloading files, schematics, transmission data. "I used to be a soldier," he said finally. "Now I make sure the ones they take come. Home or they're killers." "Don't." He turned slightly, enough for Elias to see the faded engraving on his chest plate. A simple skull with a crack through it. It wasn't a symbol of pride but of mourning. "They called me the Silent Reaper. I didn't choose it." Elias stared. "You came here." "Just for me?" "For anyone," the Reaper said. "You're not the first. You won't be the last." Outside, the wind carried the rising hum of dropships descending through the atmosphere. The Empire was closing in, unwilling to lose face. The Reaper reloaded calmly, checking each round as though time itself bent around his patience. "They'll send elites now," he said. "Heavier armor, smarter tactics, but they bleed like the rest." Elias tried to stand taller despite the pain. "Then let's make them bleed." For the first time, the Reaper turned fully toward him. Beneath the cracked visor, a faint hint of approval flickered. Not a smile, but something close. "Stay alive, soldier. That's the hardest part." The first dropship landed with the force of a quake. Dozens of armored aliens poured out, shields raised, forming tight formations. The Reaper moved before they could adapt, firing through weak points, setting traps with grenades that detonated silently but shattered armor like glass. The fight became chaos again. Beautiful, terrible, precise. Elias grabbed a fallen plasma rifle and joined him, his shots clumsy but furious. Each kill felt like reclaiming a piece of dignity stripped away by days of torment. They fought side by side, a ghost and a survivor. For every alien that fell, more arrived, and the air thickened with smoke and fear. The Reaper absorbed the battlefield like a machine built from purpose. He took wounds without flinching, each movement driven by instinct honed through endless wars. When a blast knocked Elias to the ground, the Reaper's hand caught him mid-fall, dragging him behind a ruined barrier. "Don't waste pain," he said, reloading with brutal calm. "Pain means you're still human." Minutes stretched into eternity until finally the last alien officer retreated, limping toward a transport. The Reaper raised his rifle, hesitated, then lowered it. "Let him run," he muttered. "Let him spread the story." Smoke coiled above the wreckage, glowing orange against the alien sky. Elias leaned on a shattered beam, body trembling, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. The Reaper stood beside him, silent, scanning the horizon. "They'll come again," Elias said quietly. "They won't stop after this." "They shouldn't," the Reaper replied. "The longer they hunt, the more they'll remember what humans become when cornered." He turned toward the approaching dawn, faint and colorless. "You've got one life to live. Don't waste it proving you can die." Elias nodded slowly, understanding what the man meant. Somewhere between pain and survival, a bond had formed, not of friendship but of shared defiance. The Reaper started walking toward the horizon, weapon slung over his shoulder. "What will you do now?" Elias called out. "Keep hunting," came the quiet answer. And then he was gone, swallowed by the smoke, leaving behind only silence and the memory of what vengeance looked like when carried by a man who refused to stop. Dawn crept over the ruined arena like a reluctant witness, its pale light revealing the cost of the night. Burned platforms smoldered, alien bodies lay scattered, and the silence felt heavier than the fighting had. Human dropships finally pierced the sky, their engines cutting through the smoke with a sound Elias Ward had never been so grateful to hear. Medics rushed him aboard, their hands steady, their voices urgent, yet his eyes kept searching the horizon where the silent Reaper had vanished. He knew he would not see the man again, but the absence felt deliberate, as if heroes like that were never meant to stay. During recovery, Elias learned how close he had come to being erased from history. The Empire had already prepared the broadcast, already written the narrative of human weakness. That story died in the arena. Fragmented footage leaked across systems, showing elite soldiers falling to an unseen hunter, showing fear where arrogance once lived. The Empire scrambled to contain it, issuing denials and revised reports, but the truth traveled faster than censorship. Worlds that had bowed, their heads began to whisper. A single word with reverence and terror, human. Elias lay in a medical bay, his leg rebuilt with synthetic muscle, scars etched deep into skin and memory. Officers debriefed him again and again, asking for details, names, tactics. Each time he spoke of the Reaper, the room grew quiet. He wasn't trying to win a battle, Elias told them. He was trying to send a message. That message spread beyond military channels, carried by civilians who saw hope in defiance. Humanity was no longer just surviving the galaxy. It was being watched. Far from the outpost, beyond mapped lanes and sanctioned space, the silent Reaper moved alone. His armor was patched, his body worn, but his purpose burned undiminished. He monitored the Empire's response, intercepted frightened transmissions, noted the shift in tone from mockery to caution. They had felt fear, and fear changed empires. He did not celebrate the dead he left behind. He remembered them as consequences. The ghosts that followed him were heavy, but lighter than regret would have been if he had done nothing. The Empire convened emergency councils, their leaders furious and unsettled. One human had disrupted an entire sector's doctrine. New orders were issued. Avoid capture of humans when possible. Increase patrols. Authorize extreme force. Yet beneath the commands pulsed an unspoken realization. Humans did not fight like them. Humans adapted, endured, and returned stronger. The Reaper was not an anomaly. He was proof of a pattern they had underestimated. Elias was discharged weeks later, walking with a slight limp that no technology could fully erase. He returned to service by choice, refusing reassignment. When asked why, he answered honestly, "Because someone stood up for me when I couldn't. I won't forget that." His, presence inspired others not through speeches, but through quiet resolve. He trained harder, listened more, and carried the lesson the Reaper had carved into his life. Survival was not enough. Meaning mattered. Rumors of the silent Reaper multiplied. Some claimed he struck supply lines. Others said he dismantled black sites where prisoners vanished. The stories conflicted, but their effect was consistent. Wherever humans were hunted, resistance followed. Small victories accumulated, not enough to topple an empire, but enough to crack its certainty. The Reaper never corrected the myths. He understood the power of fear shaped by imagination. One night, Elias received a data packet with no return signature. Inside was a single image, the cracked skull symbol, freshly etched onto a ruined Imperial beacon, and beneath it a short message. "Still alive, still watching." Elias smiled for the first time since the arena, a quiet, fierce expression. He forwarded the image to no one. Some things were not meant to be shared. The galaxy continued to turn, wars ignited and cooled, alliances shifted. Yet something fundamental had changed. The Empire no longer laughed when humans ran. It calculated, hesitated, and sometimes chose retreat. That hesitation saved lives. It bought time. It allowed hope to root itself in places long stripped bare. On the edge of a distant system, the Silent Reaper observed another Imperial facility, another place where cruelty hid behind protocol. He checked his rifle, steady hands betraying no doubt. He was tired, but purpose carried him forward. As long as the galaxy believed humans were easy prey, he would remind it otherwise. The hunt was not over. It had only learned to fear its prey.